Have you noticed that everyone's being led to Christ, even celebrities?
What do you think it is that it seems like more bigger name folks are becoming Christian, or to some degree or another, like Candace, Owens, and who's that? Rod Schneider, your bride.
Yeah, Ian Hersey Ali, Neil Ferguson, Russel Brand, Joe Rogan, Douglas Murray.
Rogan. What are you doing with Joe Rogan?
Yeah, well, Joe's already he's got a foot in the camp.
He's a lot less disparaging of Christianity than he once was,
absolutely.
which we all really appreciate. Thank you,
well,
Joe.
Joe figured it out. Yeah.
You know, when Christ is that the pattern of Christ's life,
the presence of Christ, because with Christ, in particular in the figure of Christ, Christ himself
you know, when Christ is.
If Christ's power, surely Christ's actions, if Christ, what is the Bible in returning to Christ, indeed it does feel Christ.
So who is the Christ? This is Benjamin Krem, an esoteric philosopher and a channel for the Christ. Let's hear it from the main source and see who the Christ is.
I was contacted by one of these masters who lives in the Himalayas early in '59. He sent another disciple to tell me that I was being contacted, and then he contacted me himself. And soon after that, he said, now our master, the master of all the masters, has something important to tell you. And then the voice of his master, the Lord Maitreya, to give him his personal name, who is the master who embodies what we call the Christ principle.
Now, who are these masters, and what does Jesus have to do with it? In the books, Through the Eyes of the Master and the Great Initiates, it reveals that there are 9 main masters. This is very interesting. Here is Master Jesus. Take note that Jesus was not God. He was only overshadowed by who? The Christ. That means that there are 2 individuals. And then you have the 8th, and here's the 9th. The Lord Maitreya. He's known to Christians as the Christ, to the Orient as the Bodhisattva, to Mahayans as the Imam Mahdi, appeared in India as Shri Krishna, in Palestine as Christ, in Great Britain as St. Patrick. So according to them, the Maitreya is the Christ to the Christians, but Maitreya to the Palestinians is Christ. So the question is this: is Jesus Christ Maitreya?
Lord Maitreya is not a name which most Christians would associate with the Christ. What is his relationship to the Christ?
Maitreya and the Christ are one and the same individual, and he worked through Jesus by overshadowing Jesus 2,000 years ago in Palestine. His consciousness entered into that of Jesus at the baptism, and from the baptism to the crucifixion, Jesus was the Christ. This time, the Christ himself, the Lord Maitreya himself, has come into the world.
Because of the fact that Maitreya, the Christ, does not fit the exact mold of the traditional picture of the Christ, that some people would be a little bit skeptical and may even wonder if this is the Antichrist that you're talking about.
Oh, indeed. It's a completely mistaken idea of what the Antichrist is. The Antichrist is not a man, it's an energy. It's a force. It's deliberately released to break down the old order. It was released in Roman times through the Emperor Nero to break down the Roman dispensation to prepare the way for Christendom. It was released again in our time through Hitler, with a group around him in Nazi Germany, together with a group of militarists in Japan and another group in Italy. And these 3 powers, the Axis powers, in the war with the Allies from 39 to 45, embodied the energy we call the Antichrist. It has been, it's gone, it's done, its destructive work. It is behind us.
So they deny that Jesus is the Son of God. They deny the Bible where it says in Matthew 3 verse 17, where it says, "This is my Son." They deny John 20, 30, and 31, where it says that Jesus identified as both the Christ and the Son of God. They deny Luke 4, verse 41. Demons fall down before Jesus and say, "You are the Son of God." They teach that Jesus was only God when Maitreya entered into him in the form of the Christ principle at baptism and left him when he died at Calvary. The Christ is not the Christ of the Bible. And they also deny that 666 is the number of a man. In Revelation 13:18, it clearly states, "Here is wisdom, let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast. For the number is that of a man, and his number is 666. Now if this isn't Jesus Christ that's appearing the second time, then who is it?
The Yoga Avatar Lahiri Mahasaya, who is your great Mahaguru, who teaches the Kriya Yoga, will come as the future world teacher, and he will succeed the Christ. If you want to know, Christ is the Maitreya. The Kalki Maitreya is the second advent. He is the Christ. So get your shoulders and biceps strong. Be ready to fight the good fight with all your might. For Christ is your strength and Christ your right. Lay hold of life, and it shall be your life and joy eternally. That's what it says. But the Christians teach well, but they do not know the inner meaning of the teachings, which have to be taught by some Joshmo from another country. So lunch doesn't matter, dinner doesn't matter. It's only the soul-to-soul contact that matters. It's only a victory of the light over the darkness that matters. And that's what we are working to in the Here Now Truth Alive. The work has already started. Wake up. What are you talking? As I'm talking, I'm infusing you with the fire. I'm infusing your spine with a sword of knowledge. It's being done in the Here Now, right now. You're being prepared. The coming of the second advent is being prepared through here.
So it's clear. They're not waiting for the second coming of Jesus Christ. They're waiting for the Maitreya to come. So let's ask them, how is the Maitreya going to appear in his coming?
He works within the law governing our free will. And most people who give any kind of thought at all to the idea of a Christ returning to the world visualize him coming down on a cloud, from heaven, tremendous dramatic event, waving a rod of power, surrounded by angels blowing trumpets and so on. In fact, he said, "Sleep not, keep awake, keep alert, for I come like a thief in the night. In such an hour I should think not." And that's exactly what he has done.
Good evening, my dear friends. Be ready to see me soon, to follow my thoughts. My advent is nigh.
The world teacher for the New Age of Aquarius, Maitreya Buddha, has been living in London, England, since 1977. The Buddha, 2,500 years ago, made a prophecy that at this time would come into the world another great Buddha like himself, by name Maitreya, who would inspire humanity to create a brilliant golden civilization based, as he put it, on righteousness and truth. And that's what Maitreya has come to do. Think on, tension between the eyebrows. He's a member of the Asian community of London. He lives there as an apparently ordinary man, although those who are now around him know him as a very exceptional man. Everything I hear, he hears. He can teach through me, he can inspire, he can heal, and so on. So he has a kind of vehicle, like a window in the world, through whom he can work. He told me to get a tape recorder, which I did, a little Grundig, portable, and he began to give me long dictations, which I repeated onto the microphone. And one night, 3 months after the initial contact, I heard the voice of Maitreya, and he said very little, it was very simple. He said, "I myself am coming. It will be the most extraordinary evolutionary step which humanity will take. We can either accept the principle of sharing or else destroy life. The tensions inherent in the discrepancy in living standards between the developed world and the third world are such as they have within them the seeds of a third world war. That would be nuclear and would destroy all life, human and subhuman. But we have to make the choice. We have to invite him. We have to invite him forward to come onto the radio and television networks of the world. And on the day of declaration, it will be the most extraordinary experience for humanity. We will see his face on the television screens, wherever you have access to television. But he won't speak. He won't say anything. But his thoughts and his ideas will enter telepathically into the minds of all humanity. He will come into mental telepathic contact with the whole of humanity simultaneously.
See the light which beckons you into the future, or sound forever the knell of regret.
On the day of declaration, to get back to that, he will, I don't know how long it will take, maybe 30 minutes, 35 minutes, something, 40 minutes, something like that. He will not speak, not say a word, but his thoughts, his ideas will be heard inwardly, telepathically, by everybody in the world, everybody above the age of 14. So if you're 14, you're Slovenian, you'll hear him in Slovenian. If you're Russian, you'll hear him in Russian. Americans in American, English in English, French in French, Dutch in Dutch, and so on. He will come into telepathic rapport with every adult in the world. And each of us will hear him inwardly, telepathically, in our own language. So you will hear him as if he's speaking directly to you, which, in a sense, he is. He thinks what he's wanting to say, and our brains will simply translate that into Slovenian, French, Dutch, German, Spanish, whatever. He said it will be as if I embrace the world. People will feel it even physically. And at the same time, and this will create an inner certainty that this is the Christ, an intuitive understanding of the message, a heartfelt response to the message. And on the physical plane, there will be hundreds of thousands of spontaneous miracle cures, healings all over the planet. And in these three ways, you will know that that one is the Christ, the world teacher, the Imam Mahdi, the Messiah, Maitreya Buddha, Krishna. By whatever name you await him, you will know that that one has come.
Now, since Maitreya isn't omnipresent, he has to use the TV so that everyone can view him. But how in the world is he going to talk to everybody through the mind telepathically?
Us average folk a sense of what the mission is and what role we have to play in it, because I assume that they're not just going to wave a magic wand.
Absolutely not. We have to change the world. There are scientists in the Soviet Union and in the United States, and this is known to the governments in each country, who have been given the beginnings of a new technology, which Maitreya calls the technology of light. And this is known to your leaders, it is known to the Russian leaders.
Can you think of a research program that's testing technology that transmits high-frequency light?
While the Air Force insists HAARP is not an offensive weapon and is necessary for continuing national security, Alaskan native Nick Begich proposes a different scenario in this new book.
The things that we found in other Air Force documents, one in particular was a document put together in '82. The document was called Low Intensity Conflict in Modern Technology, with a foreword by none other than Newt Gingrich. One section spoke about using radio frequency radiation transmitters for disrupting human thinking, for basically debilitating troops invisibly by being able to bombard them with radio frequency that was tuned to just the right frequency, in just the right waveform, so as to totally disrupt their mental process and basically debilitate those troops.
A recent classified report from the Pentagon from 1998 has revealed an investigation into using laser beams for putting voices in people's heads. Is this possible? Do we have that kind of technology?
Jesse Ventura has his doubts that the HAARP antennas can broadcast radio waves that influence people's thoughts. But Nick Begich is prepared for the skeptics.
This is just a standard CD player, and what these are is piezoelectric transducers. And in simple language, they carry a signal that can enter the nervous system so that you can get that proverbial voice in the head. And so by activating this, placing these electrodes, on the surface of the skin, blocking the ears tightly, you'll hear the music just as if your ears were playing it, but the ears have nothing to do with it. The eighth cranial nerve, the part that connects to the brain, has nothing to do with it.
So in other words, I can touch this to my neck and hear it without my ears hearing it, and no one else in the room will hear it.
That is correct. I want you to block your ears really tightly so you can't hear it.
Now, Dr. Nick Begich is showing him how the HAARP transmitter can send a signal directly to his brain.
Wow.
So what did you hear?
Well, I heard music, right, but it's strange because I listened to try to figure out where the music was coming from, and it seemed like right here.
Right.
It sounded like I was hearing it almost through the top of my head or my forehead.
Right.
The technology to speak into someone's brain without using any words is here, and is being tested on people right now. Mind games, new on the internet. A community of people who believe the government is beaming voices into their minds. They may be crazy, but the Pentagon has pursued a weapon that can do just that.
An estimated 10,000 people around the world are all reporting the exact same terrifying experience.
Electronic harassment, synthetic telepathy, voice-to-skull technology. Chances are you haven't heard of these terms, but after searching the internet, I found dozens of websites dedicated to the phenomenon, residents who say they're victims.
We are TIs, targeted individuals.
They say they're being monitored, manipulated, and even tortured.
This is not a joke. This is not science fiction. Because people know nothing about mind control. They don't know that your thoughts can be changed.
Through the internet, they've validated each other's experiences, and a community has formed.
We're not having a group hallucination. This is actually something that's happening.
They call themselves targeted individuals.
This is a death camp. This is a concentration camp.
I will expose you one day. I don't care who you are or who you think you are or who you're connected to.
People don't even realize. People will never realize until it's too late.
As you can see, they can make it seem like Maitreya is speaking to you telepathically. In fact, it is a lie, and it's from HAARP. Now, if HAARP can make you hear things, can it make you see Maitreya coming back in the clouds?
What follows is a celestial phenomenon that is attracting attention worldwide. It concerns ongoing sightings of luminous, star-like phenomenon, too large and bright to be confused with a known celestial body, while exhibiting changes in size, location, color, and magnitude, as well as duration. These attributes rule out the possibility of near-Earth objects, asteroids, comets, and supernovas as potential sources. Beginning in January 2009, sightings have been reported from Norway, Costa Rica, the United States, Ukraine, Japan, scores of countries to date. There are many newspaper and TV reports.
UFO sightings may be the stuff of films and TV shows, but they keep turning up.
Edivaldo noites de domingo e objeto voador não identificado chamou a atenção de moradores do conjunto universitário.
Cuando hay una luz muy grande, muy resplandeciente, que no es normal verla en el cielo.
And YouTube reflects hundreds of videos capturing the event. Sightings to date don't correlate with sky maps, so are unknown to science. Celestial phenomena such as these are unprecedented, and yet, with consistent reporting over these many months, an explanation remains elusive. Another element of the story makes it equally compelling. Many witnesses report that they deeply question the meaning and purpose of what they have seen and are amazed by the sheer beauty of the spectacle. Yet, there is one man who believes he knows the true meaning of this star, and in fact, predicted its appearance in December of 2008. Benjamin Creme, British author, editor, and artist. Beyond the science and even the spectacle, his perspective on this phenomenon makes the most compelling aspect of all.
4 great star-like luminaries of gigantic power. They are not stars, but they look like stars. You can also see an interesting sequence of photographs of the star from all over the world, and it changes shape. It becomes to look more like a spacecraft than a star, and then back to a star, and so on. It depends how deeply you zoom into it, and you will find people who don't even know what they're looking at say, "What is this? I've never seen anything like it. It's gigantic, it's changing colour, look. It's extraordinary. There's that fire coming out of it. Look at it. It's moving, it's disappearing." And these stars are the herald of Maitreya.
On May 2nd, the High Frequency Active Aurora Research Program, or HAARP, put out a public notice. It announced that it would conduct a test on April 8th to the 10th, 2024. So what happened in between April 8th and the 10th?
Tonight, millions of Americans across the upper U.S. will potentially see the northern lights thanks to a severe solar storm. NOAA issuing this rare watch for the first time in nearly 20 years. A geomagnetic storm so strong it could possibly threaten communications and power grids here on Earth.
Now, could it be that HAARP can duplicate the northern lights? Can they duplicate birds, doves, maybe even angels flying in the sky? How about the Virgin Mary? If they can duplicate the lights in the sky, then what else can they do? I hate to say this, but this is nothing compared to what we are going to witness in the near future.
The second step, he says, was going to involve a giant show from space. Essentially, they were going to use three-dimensional optical holograms that were going to project holographic images to beam across the sky, and that these images were going to include projections of Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Krishna, and it was all going to merge into one. Essentially, they were going to be able to accomplish this by using space-based satellites, and it was going to make the entire sky transform into a massive movie screen.
So they have the technology to deceive the whole world to believe that their individual gods have returned and combined into one God. Now let's see the true identity of the Christ. This is Albert Pike, a 33-degree Freemason and writer of the Masonic book called Morals and Dogma. Morals and Dogma is a book that is given to the initiates that have reached the 30th degree of Freemasonry to give the esoteric meaning of Mason teachings. Now, which God does the high initiates of Freemasonry worship? That which we must say to the crowd is, we worship a God, but it is the God that one adores without superstition. To you, Sovereign Grand Inspector General, we say this, that you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and the 30th degrees. The Masonic religion should be, by all of us, initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. Yes, Lucifer is God, and unfortunately, Adonai is also God. For the eternal law is that there is no light without shade, no beauty without ugliness, no white without black. The true and pure philosophical religion is a belief in Lucifer, the equal of Adonai. But Lucifer, God of light and God of good, is struggling for the humanity against Adonai, the God, little g, of darkness and evil. So Adonai, they switch it. He is the God of darkness and evil. He goes on to say in Morals and Dogma, the true name of Satan, the Kabbalists say, is Yahweh, God reversed. For Satan is not a black god, but a negation of God. For the initiates, this is not a person, but a force. Who's a high initiate that echoes and believes this philosophy? Her name is Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. Like Albert Pike, she also says, the Kabbalists say that the true name of Satan is that of Jehovah placed upside down. For Satan is not a black god, but the negation of the white deity, of the light of truth. God is light, and Satan is an accessory darkness or shadow to set it off, without which pure light would be invisible and incomprehensible. She says in the Secret Doctrine, the serpent was the Lord God himself, who as the Orpheus, the Logos, or bearer of divine creative wisdom, taught mankind to become creators in their turn. Lucifer represents life, thought, progress, civilization, liberty, independence. Lucifer is the Logos, the serpent, the savior. Now wait a minute. She called Lucifer Logos. Albert Pike also refers to him as the Logos. Now let's see what Krem and Jordan Peterson have to say.
He works within the law governing our free will.
And so we can derive from that the idea that the pattern of Christ's life is the antithesis of power. And what you see in that life is the constant refusal to use force no matter what, right? And the Roman soldiers make fun of him. They say, well, if you're the Son of God, why don't you come off the cross and lay the landscape to waste, which is at least in principle within the purview of possibility. And the answer is, well, you're not allowed in the final analysis, you're not allowed to use force no matter what. Right, invitation, logos, not force.
Birds of a feather flock together. Another high initiate and Mason that has joined the flock is Alice A. Bailey. Alice A. Bailey was a high priestess and prophetess of the New Age movement. She was a prolific author on occultism and founded an international esoteric movement. She founded the publishing company by the name of Lucifer Trust, but later she changed it to Lucis Trust. She then started a group called World Goodwill, an official non-government organization within the United Nations. What is the purpose of this group? She says the stated aim of this group is to cooperate in the world of preparation for the reappearance of, you would have thought that she would say Lucifer, but no, the reappearance of the Christ. So here you have all the masters found in one, in Maitreya. And we saw that Maitreya is the Christ. And the Christ is Lucifer. It's not if you will see Lucifer on your TV screens. It's when. Everyone will see him, and everyone will hear his voice, not from their ears, but as we just saw, in their minds. The world needs to be warned that this is not Jesus. Warn your husbands or wives, sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, friends and family, neighbors, or even strangers, that the Antichrist is coming. And don't be deceived. Now I wish that was it. But there's more. They asked Benjamin Krem a very interesting question. They asked him, have you anything to say about the Holy Father in Rome? And he replied, the Master Jesus will take over the throne of St. Peter's in Rome, and the true apostolic succession will begin. This event is now imminent, following the declaration of the Christ, so the declaration means his second coming. It could well be that the present Pope will be the last. So wait a minute. The word will take implies that this is a future event. But But according to Scripture, the Antichrist is here now. 1 John 4:3, it says, such a person has the spirit of Antichrist, which you heard is coming into the world, and indeed is already here. So here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. No wonder Benjamin Krem hates this scripture in Revelations. John was telling us who the Antichrist is. All we have to do is calculate the name. So does the name of the Pope, when calculated, total 666? To make that calculation, we need to go to the Roman numeral values. Here's a table for you to do your own investigation. So to the left, we have the American alphabet, and to the right, I put together the Roman numerals associated with that letter. So let's go to the popes. Here we have John Paul II, and his name in Latin is Johannes Paulus II. So here we have it in our alphabet, and we add the Roman numerals, add those up, and it adds to 666. Now it could be coincidence if it was just one name, but there are over 6 titles of the popes that add to 666. Not only that, there are Greek words that point to the pope. Now we won't calculate them now, but here's the Greek numeral so you can do your own research. Now who's in control? Who is behind this conspiracy? And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil, and Satan. So Satan is the mastermind behind everything we have learned. Another name for Satan is Titan. Now what if we got the Greek numerals for Titan and added those up? What's amazing is that it also adds up to 666. Satan is about to appear, and they are getting ready for the reappearance of Lucifer. Be prepared.